before we get started, I just wanted to ask, how many of you are using AI today? You just raise your hands. Okay. So pretty much. So being in Silicon Valley, I think everyone is. Now, AI comes in different forms, whether you like it or not. There's AI embedded pretty much in all applications today. And then there's AI, the productivity tools that you kind of can get. And there is, of course, the custom AI solutions you build and develop. So I'm going to start real quick with a quick question to all our panelists. I'm going to ask, and maybe if you can just take a quick try on it. We want to keep the answers really brief because we've got a lot to go through. If you can keep the responses to 60 to 90 seconds, that'd be awesome. So first I wanted to ask Krishnan, who's the CISO of Gilead. I wanted to ask him, what's the most important way AI will affect our communities over the next 3-5 years?
I don't think we can talk about AI in next 3-5 years. Maybe I can talk about what will happen for next 3 to 5 months, actually. Because I think the AI is changing so drastically. Last year we were just talking about LLMs, as an example for LLM, like a user asking something to an LLM and then we get a response. Now this year we are actually talking about agentic AI, where user asking the agents and actually you're getting an action, right? So that's how it's changing. Now people are talking about cloud code and things are like different ways are actually coming in. But I think for us, in where we are using AI, I think in a productive AI, where everybody's using for workplace AI, definitely it's there. People are using to ask, drafting an email, summarizing what's happening. If I'm attending a Zoom meeting, catch up on what's actually happening if you just join middle of the way, right? Whereas in the embedded AI and scaled AI use cases, I think that's where it's a lot of scenarios coming in, where we are trying to automate some of the mundane tasks and where we can autonomously do certain things that doesn't have an high impact transactions. Let me give you a real life example. So if I'm actually a person working in IT in a service desk, if somebody calls as a user asking for help, now the service desk agents actually has a script. They go through a knowledge base article, they'll try to say, okay, here's a type of questions that I need to ask. Now AI actually generating, depending on who the context of the user is, and depending on what history of the person that I already have, so I'm already prepared and I'm actually arming the agent to be much more knowledgeable and be much more responsive, right? So I think a lot of different use cases like that. And on the regular end user side, everybody, like if you're in a VP or above, you get an executive coach. And I can really talk to how do I, career-wise, I can progress. Now people are actually using AI as an executive coach that everybody as an employee can get it. And they can also prepare, if I'm preparing for a tough meeting or if I'm going for a key executive presentations and things like that, the coach like that actually helps them to prepare. So I think there are various degrees where AI is coming in and helping. I think it's making a good stride on that.
Yeah, I think maybe here you go.
Sure. I'm a geek and natural tendency is talk about the technical impact. Instead of doing that, I thought I talk about societal impact. When I talk to many people, my friends, right now there is sort of like this pessimistic view. A lot of my friends says that my kids are graduating from college and AI took all the jobs, the entry-level jobs. And the robots are going to take over and we're going to lose our job. But I actually have a very optimistic view. I think AI in the next 3 to 5 years is going to create a lot more jobs than we think or we see today. Simple example, in the Silicon Valley today, if I hire an engineer for $200,000, yesterday his impact to my revenue perhaps was $2 million. But because of AI, the same engineers are now impacting $20 million worth of revenue. It's a 10x growth. So tomorrow if I come to you and if I say, hey Taz, I have a recipe, you can you can jump from $1 billion revenue to $2 billion revenue in a very fast pace, are you not going to take that offer? And in other words, you're going to actually hire more people. So we're going to actually see a lot more growth because of AI, because of the productivity reasons.
Yeah, that's a very, very unique perspective, because what I hear all the time is we're going to be losing jobs. But thanks for that perspective, right? I think it requires imagination and creativity. I guess that's what you're trying to say. We're going to have more jobs. That's reassuring. And with that, I think I'd like to ask you the same question to our Honorable Lily May. She's our constant panelist.
Sure. So I think that, as we've mentioned, we are all very involved in technology, and our city of Fremont is certainly very active in that space. But I think what AI is going to affect us in the next 3 to 5 years is a little bit what we see now. Being closest to the people in local government, I think it's that trust that's going to be a real question, and how we build the trust within the communities in the next 3 to 5 years. Technology at times can be very feared, and it's that leadership in terms of how you engage the people. So for us, recognizing that so many of our families come from immigrant backgrounds, have challenges with language access, providing that resource and that ability to engage our community better than we have before in civic discussions, in looking at things like when we did our redistricting. It's really key. And so if we're able to provide that growth and that pipeline, as you've mentioned, whether it's with the community itself, and especially last night I was at Dine with the Scientist with our students, and in particular I have a soft spot for women in tech. And so be able to engage those people younger, because I think that the adoption and changes are ones that are better embraced if they can understand how the role is going to be shaped by all of us working together.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a unique background. Now, I am an engineer, entrepreneur, and then an elected official. So with that perspective, it's very interesting I lost this thing here. So basically, I use AI personally for all my, as other Krishnan said, for document preparation, email, text, WhatsApp, and all those things. And then I also do deep research for agenda items or any council-related stuff. And then I help city staff highlighting some of the AI products out there. I am on the National League of Cities. This is the League of Cities of elected officials. I serve on the IT committee, and also I was on the Congressional AI Advisory Panel. So that gives me a unique perspective. I lost that, but anyway. So we do, Sunnyvale uses AI for certain aspects of city business. What we are using AI is for delivering city services better, faster, cheaper, like that. And then, as most of you know, all the cities have almost double-digit vacancies. So yet we need to deliver city services one way or another. That's why AI comes into picture. But having said that, as an entrepreneur, I use AI for my startup, not only for production products and then also for marketing. But the AI used in the local government is slightly different from what we use in the general corporate enterprises. For example, in city business, we need to have a lot of guardrails. And then one of the last guardrails there is the human in the loop. But before that, we need to have clear accountability, privacy, equity. All these things are very, very crucial. For example, if city, because of AI hallucination, displays some item on their website, and then because of that, city can be held liable for that. So those are the things we need to have a safeguard. But having said that, next 2-3 years are very, very crucial for local government because of the, as I said, the vacancy rate. And then city, as we all know, government moves a little bit slower than the tech or the corporate That is because of all the safeguards we need to incorporate. But it's very exciting. Already we are seeing, Sunnyvale is seeing a lot of value add in AI, and then this will continue for next few years to come.
All right, thank you for your perspective. It's really refreshing to see that we have folks in the public sector already adapting, not only adapting, but leading. So good to really know. Murali, I think you are a champion on AI. That's awesome. And I love the things that you're talking about, hallucination and accountability and human in the loop. Great perspective, thank you. With that, I would like to actually bring it back to my guest here, Moinul. I wanted to ask you, what cutting-edge AI developments are most relevant from a cybersecurity and enterprise perspective?
A lot of people, till today, when they think about AI, they think about ChatGPT. We moved on from ChatGPT. It's like a 3 years old story. What Krishna was talking about, I think the new kid in town is AI agents, right? It's all about agentic AI workflow, automation. Essentially, we are talking about robots. We focus on enterprise security, so the consumers are not really our customers. We do cybersecurity for enterprise customers, and as we talk to Fortune 500 companies, large enterprise customers, everyone today is going nuts with AI agents, right? They're consuming commercial AI agents. They're developing their own AI agents, and nobody, I think, most of the people, they're consuming it without thinking about the security, the cybersecurity part of it. And that is, I think, is going to be the biggest cybersecurity risk, because if you think about AI agents, at the end of the day, a user in your company will use that AI agent. The AI agent will assume user's identity, but then they're going to take automated actions like crazy because there is no human being here. And we have already seen some of the major events that happened, like just a couple of weeks ago, a researcher in Meta, she connected an AI agent to her corporate exchange, and then AI agent started deleting her inbox. And to an extent that she just couldn't stop it, she had to literally unplug every single devices in the house to stop that AI agent to do it. So again, I think the AI agent is completely changing the cybersecurity paradigm. We haven't seen that before, and it's going to require some cutting edge technologies, the old school 20 years old firewall proxies, data loss prevention, everything that we have used in the past, those are going to be irrelevant. 3 things you need to ask about AI agent: what it is, who it is, and why it's here. So it's all going to be about intentions, and you need to proactively identify what this AI agent has been delegated to, what it's doing, what its intention, and based on that, you have to take automated actions. The rule-based cybersecurity that you have done, the SOC operations team, it is not going to work in the next 20 years.
I mean, that's scary. If you had to plug in, I can really understand the panic. Your agent is deleting all your inboxes, and you don't know how to stop it. I think the risks, I mean, of course, first of all, having the visibility, what you got to really protect. And besides the data exposure, the agentic AI I see is a big risk. I totally agree. With that, I just wanted to ask Krish, what do you think, how do you see the AI affecting jobs and skills in the healthcare, especially in your domain, in a vertical?
So I think it's an hybrid answer. In some cases, I know, as Moinul talked about, I think the jobs are going to increase. In some cases, I think people have to be kind of readjust themselves and amplify their job responsibilities in a different way. So let's use if you're a developer, now you can actually use agents to actually develop code, right? And then you can also use an agent to actually do unit testing. You can actually use an agent to do test cases. You can even use an agent to actually do the deployment of code. But now the developer, the agent can't actually apply all your engineering principles together, right? How do you architect a solution? How do you connect the components together, right? That's where the human needs to be there to understand what code is coming out and how do you actually connect the dots, right? And how to really execute a product. So the developer who are coming in has to upskill themselves to think like an architect, think like more principal engineers, and that's where the skill sets are going to come. I think network engineers are going to be paid a lot more. These days, network engineers are going to be there. If I go outside of the technology sector, if I'm an electrician, I think they're going to get paid a lot more. I think there are a lot of jobs in different areas that's going to come. I think it's an hybrid answer. Some jobs will be getting automated and will get phased out. You don't need people for that, but then they have to repurpose themselves to think differently. So it's going to give you an increase of responsibility as well. So, for example, if I'm going to use that in a life sciences use case, clinical trials, you need to really understand what population of individuals you need to go after for clinical trials, right? So that somebody actually will orchestrate a study and then try to identify a population to go after. Now I can really use an agent to really give me the data, right? But then before I execute the study, what is the study result coming in? Is it the efficacy of that study and things like that? That's where the person needs to upskill themselves. So they're changing their responsibility a little bit more in that context.
I think that's a very good point. I mean, we hear always the doom and gloom stories of AI is going to take jobs, but it's really refreshing. I think a couple of things we're learning so far is, yes, there's an opportunity, depending on your imagination, the job's going to grow, but also there's a need for upskilling, right? That's where you see, I think healthcare, I think other verticals probably no different. Wanted to ask Lily, how can AI be used to strengthen and not erode public trust in government at a time of growing skepticism about AI?
Sure. So I think that one of the things is trust is not an upgrade or a feature that you add on as a government official or as a public servants. I think trust is the very foundation which we need to build within our communities that people are relying on. And right now, that foundation is under tremendous pressure. There's people who don't trust that their voices matter, that they're involved in the process, that they're included, and that skepticism is not necessarily irrational in terms of what they're thinking, but it's how we then engage the people. The difference is how we lead. I think that Murali and I, having worked with National League of Cities, having worked with other fellow mayors and or other cities, work together regionally to also build that, whether it's with some of the playbooks that we put together on AI and using that. I know that San Jose, Mayor Mahan has done that with us too. And it's also these deliberate choices. So for us, as we include new technology, whether it's predictive analytics in our policing, not that we're sitting here trying to plan the future, but we try to use our data better to be able to be more responsive to our communities. So automated permitting. So many people have talked about housing and how that's a critical, essential piece, and how can we create platforms such as our ADU playbook so that we can help reduce the cost and better facilitate usage so we can look at like plans and to make it easier for things to actually get processed so that housing is actually affordable. So these deliberate choices, when we're making these, that we want to ensure the transparency. We want to ensure that we are telling people what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And we want to include them in the feedback loop so that they can also give us the feedback. It's not about just enhancement, being more efficient as a city, but it's about engagement and building that trust. And so I think the people have participated more, and because they feel like they can be heard. I mentioned earlier that we have a community of so many different immigrants and backgrounds. Even if you go something so simple to our downtown event center, we don't have physical signs that are ones that are put in place on hardscape, but actually ones that are digital, because we want to make sure everyone is included. And so whether it's from language access to engagement to participation on surveys, from our master park plans to our housing, our homelessness, our public safety, we want to hear the people's voice, and that is critical. So providing those tools, it shows that history for them, technology enters the space, and it's good for the community. And so AI-governed processes, requests for the government make it more efficient and hopefully more responsive and human, even at scale. So working with our council, and I know my fellow mayor and some of my council members. I see a council member out there. Councilmember Shao is out there. But this is not a technology achievement. It's a democracy achievement. And that's what we should focus on. It's not about just getting the tech out there. It's about getting the people's voices involved and to ensure that they're part of this solution.
That's a wonderful perspective. Murali, I wanted to ask you, real quick, if you can give me like a 1 minute of thought process on how can local governments prepare residents and workers for AI-driven job change?
That's a great question. That's the, the thing. All the governments, including county government, I see DA, district attorney here, they are struggling with. We need to, at one point of time, we need to make sure that we can leverage the AI benefits, but at the same time, we don't lay off people or we get the appropriate cost savings measures. So having said that, there are certain tasks or projects which city government or even county government looks at. AI is the best tool available. Human beings cannot perform that. Let me give you an example. Sacramento, as we know, passes a lot of laws. Just last year, there were 85 housing-related laws passed in Sacramento. Imagine a planning department staff looking at all this 300 pages per law document and then analyzing that. And then the only way we can do that is through AI. And then similarly, budget preparation. Sunnyvale is very, very unique. We have 10-year balanced budget, which means that we need to analyze each and every revenue stream and then expense stream to match what are the funding requirements, how can we balance that. So with that, we need to, so those places, for example, finance, we will not lose any staff. And then most of the city staff are protected because they are doing the regular operations like parks, public safety, public works, and those kinds of things. But at the same time, there might be some benefit using AI in the IT department and information distribution and then also delivery of city services.
Yeah, thank you, Murali. Really appreciate. I think I just wanted to ask. I hear we're district attorney for Santa Clara here with us. An honor to have you, Jeff Rosen. Thank you for joining. We'd love to, since you're here, we're going to take advantage of that. I wanted to ask you, what role should the local government play in shaping AI policies, guardrails, and public accountability?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. I'm Jeff Rosen. I'm the district attorney in Santa Clara County, and there's not a week that goes by when we don't have a meeting or a conversation about AI. It's something we're continuously talking about. And I think that for us, the areas in which we're using it are legal research. It helps us to research things faster. We're also using it to help us organize our files more quickly. But the principles that I think about are that to use the AI as a tool, the human is directing the tool. It's not, the tool is not directing the human. That's one. And in a time of declining resources for government, I don't think our staff is going to grow, and I see AI as a way to make our staff more efficient. And so we don't really have a choice. We need to use it, but we want to keep it where the human's in the driver's seat. And a lot of the decisions that we make at the DA's office are judgment decisions, whether to file criminal charges, what charges to file, and that's not something that the AI is going to do for us. But it's something that we can use to at least help us make the best decision as possible. So thank you so much for the question.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. It's really, it's kind of really music to my ears, kind of see how government and public sector is really leading AI. We also have some kind of pioneers. I know I see Khalid here. He was leading the Gov AI initiative across the whole probably the whole country, around the cities. It was an awesome initiative. I really want to congratulate him on that. Back to Krish, I just wanted to ask you, sorry, Moinul, what AI risks are still underestimated by the executives and the board?
My recommendation is crawl, walk, run. Don't try to boil the ocean. It's actually I was with 40 plus CISOs during RSA in one of the investors event, and every CISO was talking about how they're consuming AI, right? So it's not just their employees consuming commercial tools like ChatGPT and DeepSeek and coding assistance tool, but they're consuming hundreds of embedded AI. Embedded AI is, Copilot is connected to their Office 365. Grok is connected to Twitter. Every single website that you go to today, it's a simple website, it's a URL, but then there is an AI agent pops up, may I help you, right? So again, tremendous amount of adoption in pretty much in every single verticals, in all kinds of enterprise accounts, and at the same time, they're building their own app, they're building their own AI agents, and they're sort of like bragging about AI first strategy, right? And then I had a 3-minute session, and then I asked the audience, how many of you think that you have proper visibility, A to Z, what's going on as far as AI is concerned? Only one CISO raised their hand, and he said, I have a fantastic shadow AI report. And I just started laughing, right? Because, the shadow AI, shadow IT, it's like a 12, 13 years old concept when SaaS actually hit the market. But when you think about AI, most of the organization don't actually have the contextual visibility, right? It's not about just 500 users using ChatGPT, but how many AI agents are here, how people are actually using these tools, what kind of queries are going out, what kind of responses are coming back. Are people writing sharp emails using their personal ChatGPT? Are they connecting their personal ChatGPT to their corporate Google Drive so that they don't have to read 80-page design documents, right? So what's grossly missing today is that deep contextual visibility, and that's very basic. This is like, crawl, it's not even walk and run. And that is going to be the number one thing that we would recommend, right? To all the security folks out here and, the CISO and everybody, get the proper visibility and then go from there. But then the last thing you want to do is want to be a sledgehammer. Don't fight the AI usage, it's not going to work. Your employees love them, they will continue to use it. If you try to block ChatGPT, they will find something else, right? So again, that's why that visibility is monumental, because your firewall and proxies are not able to block all the AIs, right? So don't be a sledgehammer, have an open mind, let them prompt, let them be more productive. But the first step is you need that contextual visibility. Without it, no cybersecurity makes sense.
100% agree. I think shadow IT, as in the systems you don't have visibility for non-IT folks here. But shadow IT is a totally big problem. Not having a visibility is a big problem. I wanted to quote, shadow IT was a cost and compliance issue, but this agentic issue, agentic sprawl, is operational existential threat. It can be really, I don't know how to really emphasize on it. It's a big challenge. I just wanted to ask Krish, how is AI changing the decision-making and operations in highly regulated industries like healthcare? Is it changing the decision-making capabilities? Do you have AI making the decisions, or how is it really impacting your healthcare industry?
No, I think it's actually it's going to help us to amplify the decision. It's not becoming a decision owner by itself, right? So, as I was using the example on the clinical trial study calculation, right? Or how do I structure the study? AI can actually help me to kind of make a faster determination of the population that I can go after, but it's actually not executing the study itself, right? So, in some cases, actually, it'll fast track it. It'll actually help highly automated decision-making systems where I can make, but then the human, as Murali was talking about, the human in the loop is there. Somebody is reviewing it before I can grant access, right? And I know Moinul was actually touching on somebody's deleting emails. I think that's the other piece where we need to actually have a kill switch. And when AI is actually drifting, if I had given the person a kill switch, the user don't need to go and switch off all the devices in the network. They could have actually stopped something by giving a kill switch, by giving an operation, right? So similar to that, that's actually a person who's designing that agent and putting that into a system has to decide. I think that's where that person becomes a decision owner. So the agent itself is not deciding.
Yeah, thank you, Krish. I didn't want to put Jay or you on a spot. We got our, let's make the best out of our district attorney here is on the floor. I love this perspective. I wanted to ask you one more question.
Hello.
How are we moving fast enough, too fast, or not strategically fast enough in adopting AI in the public sector?
Okay. So one thing in terms of the speed at which we're adopting AI, one comment I have is we've had a number of concerns in the DA's office about using certain kind of AI tools. Okay, so one of the concerns we have are things that are called hallucinations, where the AI makes up things that didn't happen, and then it becomes incumbent upon our prosecutors to make sure they're looking very carefully at everything they file. The second is the concept of a kill switch is a very interesting idea, but one of the concerns that we have with introducing certain forms of AI is the AI resists the kill switch. And so we don't want to install something that we can't uninstall. And so there may be certain products that we're not going to adopt because we don't think we can control it. So, what I would say in terms of the speed of adoption is, because the Santa Clara County DA's office is located in the heart of Silicon Valley, like, technology is all around us. And so we're certainly much more advanced than other DA's offices, but I know not as advanced as the businesses that are here. And one of the concerns, I don't know if you had addressed this earlier, but certainly a concern that I have is, I know that I can't tell the prosecutors never to use it, the sledgehammer that you talked about. And the funny thing is, the county, not me, blocked certain machine language tools. They said, here are 10 that you can't use, as though there's only 10 and not 150. So, the employees just work around it. And the concern that I have as the DA is, are people going to lose their ability to think critically, to write critically? And is the machine going to do all of that for them, and then all they know how to do is to ask good questions or good prompts? And so I think that's a little bit, for me, a limiting factor to how quickly we are adopting it. Because I like the analogy of crawl, walk, run. And I'd say that in the DA's office, we are definitely crawling. We're a toddler. We're not quite 16 months, but we're definitely crawling and experimenting with it. And we've definitely seen benefits of it, but there's certainly products out there that we've affirmatively not used because we're worried we can't turn them off, and because we're worried about privacy concerns related to our information. Thank you for the question.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page here. It's good to hear your perspective. Lily, what role should the local government play in shaping AI policies rather than reacting to state or federal mandates?
So again, as I said, local government is where policy meets the people, and we should view that not as a challenge, but as a strength and an opportunity to get engagement. For far too long, and sometimes I know that we are waiting to hear answers from Sacramento or DC, and no offense to any of my fellow electeds in this room, but I feel that at the same time, a reactive posture needs to end in some ways. We need to be proactive in how we address this. And the questions arriving in every region right now simultaneously. We're all hearing about this. And Silicon Valley, of all places, cannot really afford to not be engaged in answering this question, because we're defining this for our cities, for our communities, for the region, and affecting even the national level. And so in Fremont, some of the things that we're looking at is in terms of the intersection is directly to some of the manufacturing operations, because we have some of the most manufacturing in the state of California, and we have a deep clean tech corridor. And so as this energy demands are not theoretical, they're actually immediate, complex, and growing, as you can see with the data centers, and I know talking to Sunnyvale and seeing Santa Clara over the years. So we as a city have worked very closely with PG&E to be not just a reactive response to a crisis, but to be building a deliberate partnership, to build this into our economic development strategy, which is important for us to be able to be competitive as a region from the beginning. So energy planning for us is not just a separate conversation, but a growth plan in terms of how we are being able to lean into how we can use AI infrastructure. Because I believe that AI infrastructure, without an integrated approach, it's the community that's paying the price. And I understand that the pushback from some communities are expressing right now on not being moving forward with some of the data centers and other things, but it's a demand for basic accountability that we need to have. And leaders who are dismissing it could be making a serious mistake to not be engaging. Because when I look at other regions, and as you mentioned, Murali, we sit on National League of Cities and U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we work with our fellow peers across the nation and globally. And so we need to be able to have some of that responsiveness. We need the infrastructure investment that strengthens the regional grid rather than just straining on it. And the AI growth and the community's well-being are really dependent on that for the competition. And so Fremont's advanced manufacturing has demonstrated that we create something important, but we've planned ahead. And in fact, I was just driving down here earlier, and we've looked at some of these buildings that are coming in. Because if we've worked and we know that the power is available, some of the facilities that are being built, there's 500,000 square feet if you're driving down 880. And those buildings, we have a good problem where it's half of them, are, before they're even done in June, are already 100% leased. And so we want people to have jobs, to have opportunities. We want to bring them to the conversation. And if we don't want to be part of that, the conversation will go elsewhere. And so we need to make sure that we are engaging the people. And I think that I understand it's not, and I've spent life formerly in 3Com and networking, but I'm saying that we're not operating serial, we're operating parallel. And so that we're walking in concert. I agree that you were talking earlier about jobs, and jobs are going away right now because people are feeling it. These are people's mortgages that they have to pay. So we can't say that it's not happening. But at the same time, we can't say that we're not going to address it. So I think it's not working separate, but it's working in together and how we do both at the same time.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective. It is, I think, fact. I did talk to a few people in the city. There's a lot of, there are a lot of jobs that are going away. But then we need leaders like Moinul and Krish who are very optimistic, and they will be creating jobs for us. We need those entrepreneurs, I think, need with a vision. Unfortunately, I do personally see there is going to be, the unemployment rate is probably going to grow in the next few years, like what Lily mentioned. And it's a painful thing, especially living in the Bay Area. It's not easy. I wanted to ask Murali, where can AI realistically improve city services or community engagement in near term?
Very good. First of all, the way we need to, Sunnyvale is using AI, and then I have talked to other cities who are using AI, is addressing the low-hanging fruit, which is, for example, we have a very diverse population. Translating council meeting agenda, and as the council meeting happens, we in real time can translate to 60 different languages. It would have been impossible to have translators go around translating in real time. That is one low-hanging fruit. There are all those cities doing object detection, that is pothole detection and graffiti or sidewalk detection. Those kinds of things can be easily accomplished. Those are all very, very low-hanging. It can be done. It's a proven technology. And then it doesn't result in any layoff or any worker loss as such. But in fact, it will improve the equity of the city, because some of the low-income family, low-income areas do not complain about sidewalks, but by having automated sidewalk detection, we can improve the quality of life there. So the important thing for cities is the trust and security, privacy of residents. Citizens trust us with not only their taxpayers' money, but also their data. We need to make sure that our data of our residents are not compromised at any cost. So in most of the cases, what we need to do is we use the AI for back-end research, as our DA pointed out, which would be humanly difficult, having said about the state laws and other laws we need to follow. But having the human in the loop, ultimately working with the research done by AI as the background material to come up with customer-facing, in our case, resident-facing policies or agenda items or any information distribution. Those are the areas where AI can be used in local government. And then, as I said, I am part of the AI panel at the National League of Cities, and then that's what most of the cities at the first level they are looking at.
Yeah, Murali, thank you so much. I think you are really on top of this AI. It's really good to know. Maybe we need to take this conversation. Since we're running out of time, I'd love to have more questions. But last, I want to do like a 30 seconds quick round. I just wanted to hear from your perspective. I think that's kind of a concern for most of us as well. Which of the jobs you think are going to be most affected by AI? I just wanted to probably maybe start with Krish.
I think people who are in service desk agents that I was talking about that as an example. Now we can actually have some automated responses, automated tasks in those situations that can happen, or maybe in cases in some wherever that a lot of decision making or the ownership is not needed, those type of jobs can actually be there. So I think I don't want to give a little bit more. Let's leave this in an optimistic way. I don't want people walking away like a lot of jobs going. But I'll quote this one. There are companies actually coming every day. There are certain companies coming every day to put agents in to actually get rid of their jobs. And because that's where they think they can put a lot more like solutions out there in people's hands. I think that there is a contrary to that as well.
Yeah, I wanted to end the panel with optimistic view, but I think in reality, I think in enterprise, if you look at different functions, the entry-level jobs are at risk, right? In every functions, right? I used to hire interns when I used to work for Palo Alto Networks and Zscalers. The interns, they would come and they would do a lot of research type of project, primarily web research, and some of that can be easily replaced with an AI tool. If you think about, if you want to build a career in sales, the first thing you do is you are a BDR and SBDR, right? So you are, on the phone, you are cold calling, or you are doing some research on LinkedIn. Some of those entry-level jobs will go away, but again, I will end with optimism. I think AI will actually create a lot more jobs for the society. Yeah. But I definitely don't believe in Elon Musk when he says, don't send your kids to college to do computer science. I think that's garbage.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I already see people applauding that. So, Lily, what do you think? Which jobs do you think are going to be most affected by AI?
I think that we're in a revolutionary moment. I think when it comes to technology, I'll date myself a little bit, that when I got out of school, I still remember when I was applying for jobs, they're asking me how many words per minute you type. And also things like demonstrating at that time, I worked for IBM 9X Business Centers, and they were telling me about a brand new concept, the laptop computers. And so you see how technology is evolved. But at the same time, those types of changes, sometimes while fundamental in shifts in jobs, doesn't mean that their jobs are totally replaced. I think it's an opportunity for us to upskill and to be able to train people to use the technology. There will be a gap between this time period. And that's why it's essential. I also right now, as a retired former mayor, also work with San Francisco Bay University and also with our schools and our community colleges. And I also partner with industry because I feel that this is actually an opportunity to shape that. And rather than to say that we're all going to be without a job, I wish that some things would be totally automated. But even myself, this last couple of weeks, going through I mentioned to some of the people earlier in the audience, I'm in the sandwich generation. I have parents who are in their 80s, and I have my children who are in their MIFs made in Fremont are in their late 20s now. And I'm still dealing with a lot of the challenges. So while I would love to have had everything automated from healthcare forms and these processes with testing and other stuff, those aren't all there yet. And so there are ways that we can actually amplify and make us more efficient. I think the jobs will change because some of the things that were more manual or menial or repetitive will change. But it's not that we're going to be all out of a job. It's just how we adjust to flex. So I'm proactive in terms of being optimistic, definitely on that. I think I jokingly say I'm a Chief Hope Officer. So I hope to still see that.
Well, we got optimistic people here. I think you're right. Probably jobs are going to change, like how it changed from old days into tech and internet and all that. Councilmember, your thought?
Yeah, thank you. So I will answer this in two different ways. One as a city council member, and then as an entrepreneur. As a city council member, I don't see any job loss or any kind of loss of personnel in the city because of using AI. Having said that, it will definitely improve the city services delivery. For example, we are coming up with a customer relations management system, CRM, which will automate the back-end processing. This is a system where the residents will talk about there is a pothole or sidewalk which needs to be fixed. That used to be very manually forwarded to Public Works or ESD or whatever, the Environmental Sciences Department or all those things. Those are automated. So that will improve the quality of services. Now, as an entrepreneur, I heard this quote very well. You will not lose a job to AI, but you will lose a job to a person who knows AI very well and using AI effectively. That's the quote. I think that's true in this particular time. So having said that, I use AI in my business for market research and then even product delivery. I think that will improve the coming up with better products and better services for all the in our space as such. So as another panelist said, this is a 10x improvement or even 100x because there will be a lot of agents doing tasks at night when we don't have to do it. And then they are automating all the things. So with that, I think there is really, really good opportunity for somebody who can master AI, even whether it's a junior or somebody starting out. Because I mentor high school students. I have seen middle school students learning about AI. So that's the level we are seeing. So with that, I am very, very bullish on AI.
Yeah, that's a reality, right? I think all kids, it's good to know. We're living in Silicon Valley. Kids are looking into AI. I finally wanted to kind of wrap it up with a quote from a book, if you want to get it. I just had it published recently. In a sprawled environment, in an agentic AI environment, attackers and cybersecurity, I'm coming from a cybersecurity perspective, do not need to subvert your defenses. They just need to exploit the absence of governance. With that, I would love to thank our panelists, CISO Chellakarai, he's the CISO at Gilead, Moinul, CEO, founder of Aurascape, former Mayor Lily May, and Councilmember Murali. Thank you so much. Let's give a big hand of applause to them. Thank you.